She lost love, home, and hope. Then everything changed. She sat in the driver's seat, hands trembling on the steering wheel, staring at the house she once called home. The porch light was still on. The curtains still moved in the wind. Everything looked the same, except her life. Naomi Carter was 35 years old, a registered nurse who had spent her life saving others. That night, she couldn't save herself. Her phone buzzed softly. "You can't stay here anymore." No explanation. No apology. No mercy. In the back seat, her 7-year-old daughter Lily slept with her head pressed against a backpack filled with everything they owned. Clothes, school books, a broken toy she refused to leave behind. Naomi watched her chest rise and fall and felt something inside her collapse. Just days earlier, she had believed she was safe. A marriage, a home, a future she had helped build with exhausted night shifts and silent sacrifices. Now, she had none of it. She had stood by her husband when he had nothing. No status, no money, no certainty. She believed love meant staying. She believed loyalty would protect her. She was wrong. That night, Naomi didn't cry loudly. She cried quietly. The kind of tears that fall when hope finally lets go. She wondered how a woman could give her best years, her strength, her patience, only to be told she was replaceable. She wondered how quickly love could turn into exile. With nowhere to go, she started the engine. The fuel light blinked. So did her faith. She whispered words she never thought she'd say. "I don't know how to do this anymore." But what Naomi didn't know, what she couldn't see through the pain, was that this moment was not the end of her story. It was the moment everything began to change. The love she built her life on. Before the silence. Before the locked doors. Before Naomi Carter became a woman sleeping in her car with a child in the back seat. There was love. Or at least, what she believed love was supposed to be. Naomi met Austin Carter when she was 26 years old, fresh out of nursing school and still carrying the gentle optimism of someone who believed effort guaranteed results. She worked long shifts at a children's hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. 12 hours on her feet, soothing frightened parents, holding tiny hands, whispering promises she sometimes wasn't sure medicine could keep. But she showed up every day with the same quiet determination. Austin was different back then. He was 32, restless but hopeful, with big ideas and empty pockets. He talked about real estate the way dreamers talk about the future. Confident in vision, uncertain in execution. He had ambition but no structure, passion but no stability. And Naomi believed in him. She didn't fall in love with what he had. She fell in love with what he could become. They met through mutual friends at a small weekend gathering. Austin noticed her laughter first, soft, genuine, unguarded. Naomi noticed the way he spoke about life like it was a puzzle he was determined to solve. He made her feel seen. She made him feel supported. And slowly, a bond formed that felt steady, promising, safe. When they married 2 years later, there was no luxury, just sincerity. A modest ceremony. Simple vows. Naomi wore a dress she altered herself. Austin promised her a future bigger than the present they stood in. And she believed him, not because the future looked certain, but because they were facing it together. In the early years, Naomi carried more than her share of the weight. She worked night shifts so Austin could attend meetings during the day. She picked up overtime when his investments fell through. When bills came in heavier than expected, Naomi didn't complain. She adjusted. She learned to stretch meals, delay purchases, postpone her own desires. She told herself, This is what partnership looks like. When Lily was born, Naomi's world shifted completely. Exhaustion became routine. Sleep came in fragments. Love became something measured in quiet sacrifices. She would come home after grueling shifts, still smelling of antiseptic and fatigue, and rock Lily to sleep while Austin stayed up late scrolling through listings and numbers. She didn't resent him. She believed in timing. Austin often said, "Just give me a little more time. Once this works, everything will change." And Naomi nodded, because hope was easier than doubt. Years passed. Austin's persistence eventually paid off. A property flipped successfully. Then another. His name started to circulate. His phone rang more often. His tone changed, subtly at first. Confidence hardened into certainty. Gratitude softened into expectation. Naomi noticed, but she didn't confront it. She was too busy holding the family together. She packed Lily's lunches, attended school meetings, worked extra shifts when the hospital was short-staffed. She listened to Austin vent about investors and stress while swallowing her own fatigue. When he came home late, she reheated dinner without comment. When he missed family moments, she made excuses for him. "He's building something for us," she told herself. What Naomi didn't realize was that she was building him, while slowly disappearing from herself. Their conversations grew shorter. Their laughter became rare. Affection turned into routine gestures instead of intention. But Naomi clung to memory. She remembered the man who once held her hand and said, "I wouldn't be here without you." She remembered believing that love meant endurance. On their 10th anniversary, Austin forgot. Not intentionally. He just didn't notice the date until Naomi mentioned it casually. He smiled, kissed her forehead, and said they'd celebrate another time. That night, Naomi lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, wondering why something so small felt so heavy. She told herself she was being emotional. She told herself marriage had seasons. She told herself love wasn't supposed to be easy. What she didn't tell herself was the truth. That love, when unbalanced, slowly turns into survival. And Naomi had been surviving for far longer than she realized. She believed loyalty would protect her. She believed patience would be rewarded. She believed that the foundation she helped build would never crumble beneath her feet. But the beginning of her story wasn't about betrayal yet. It was about devotion. And sometimes, devotion is the most dangerous thing of all. When success changed everything. Success didn't arrive all at once. It crept in quietly, like a guest who slowly takes over the house without ever being invited. At first, Naomi welcomed it. The first major deal Austin closed felt like a victory they both deserved. She cooked his favorite meal that night, lit candles they rarely used anymore, and listened as he talked excitedly about profits and future plans. His eyes sparkled the way they used to when they were younger, and for a moment, Naomi felt reassured. This is what we were working toward, she thought. But something else arrived with success, something neither of them named. Distance. Austin's phone became an extension of his hand. Notifications buzzed during dinner. Meetings ran late into the night. Trips that once required discussion were suddenly announced, not requested. He spoke faster, walked faster, lived like time belonged only to him. Naomi noticed the change in small, almost forgettable moments. He stopped asking how her shift went. He no longer waited for her to finish speaking. When she laughed, he sometimes looked distracted, as if her voice was interrupting something more important. She adjusted, as she always had. When Austin missed Lily's school recital, Naomi recorded it on her phone. When he forgot dinner plans, she packed leftovers into containers and told Lily her father was busy building something for us. She believed if she could just be patient a little longer, the man she married would return. But success was changing him in ways patience couldn't fix. Austen's conversations shifted, from dreams to numbers, from family to image. He began dressing differently, carrying himself differently. Compliments replaced connection. Praise replaced presence. "You're amazing for holding things down," he'd say casually, as if her life was something he could set aside while he lived his. And slowly, Naomi felt herself becoming invisible in her own marriage. She noticed it most when Austen started correcting her in public. Little things. The way she told stories. The way she expressed concern. He'd smile tightly and say, "You worry too much," or, "You wouldn't understand how this works." She laughed it off in front of others. She cried silently later. At work, Naomi was still competent, compassionate, respected. Parents trusted her with their children. Colleagues relied on her calm presence in chaos. But at home, she felt like an afterthought, useful, dependable, replaceable. The first real crack appeared the night she found a receipt. It was folded into Austen's jacket pocket. An upscale restaurant in Scottsdale. 2 meals. Wine. A date she remembered clearly, because Austen had told her he was stuck in a meeting that evening. Naomi stood in the kitchen, holding the paper, her heart pounding louder than the refrigerator hum. She told herself not to jump to conclusions. She told herself success came with networking, entertaining clients, obligations she didn't fully understand. Still, something inside her shifted. When she asked Austen about it, his response was quick. Too quick. "You're reading into nothing," he said. "You always do this." The words stung more than the explanation. From that moment on, Naomi began noticing what she had been avoiding. Late-night phone calls taken outside. Passwords she no longer knew. Cologne she didn't recognize. When she tried to talk about how disconnected she felt, Austen sighed as if she were another responsibility pulling him back. "Can we not do this right now?" he'd say. "I'm under a lot of pressure." So Naomi swallowed her concerns. She told herself strong women didn't complain. That love required flexibility. That this phase would pass. But the more Austen succeeded, the smaller Naomi became in his world. He stopped coming home early. Stopped eating at the table. Stopped touching her in ways that felt intentional. When Naomi reached for him in bed, he sometimes turned away, muttering about exhaustion. She lay awake beside him, staring into the dark, wondering when intimacy had become something she had to ask for. One evening, Lily asked a question Naomi wasn't prepared to answer. "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy sit with us anymore?" Naomi froze. She smiled, brushed Lily's hair back, and said the lie she had practiced too many times. "Daddy's just busy, sweetheart. He loves us." But that night, after Lily fell asleep, Naomi cried quietly in the bathroom, sitting on the cold tile floor so no one would hear her. She began to realize something terrifying. Success hadn't just changed Austen. It had revealed him. The man who once promised partnership now expected accommodation. The man who once felt grateful now felt entitled. And the woman who once felt chosen now felt tolerated. Still, Naomi stayed. Because leaving felt like failure. Because love, she believed, was supposed to endure discomfort. Because she had built her life around a promise, and walking away felt like erasing her own sacrifices. What Naomi didn't know was that success had already planted the seeds of her collapse. and that the man she was waiting to come back wasn't coming back at all. The betrayal revealed. Naomi didn't plan to discover the truth. It revealed itself, careless, unashamed, waiting for her to finally stop looking away. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Ordinary. Quiet. The kind of evening betrayal likes best. Naomi came home earlier than usual. Her shift had ended unexpectedly after a staffing adjustment, and for the first time in months, she thought she might surprise Austin. Maybe they could eat together. Maybe talk. Maybe remember who they used to be. She parked in the driveway and noticed a car she didn't recognize. Sleek. Expensive. Parked too comfortably to be a mistake. Her chest tightened. Inside the house, laughter drifted down the hallway. A woman's laughter, light, careless, unfamiliar. Naomi stood frozen near the door, her hand still on her keys, her pulse thudding in her ears. Then she heard Austin's voice. Warm, playful, a tone she hadn't heard in years. Something inside Naomi went still. She followed the sound to the living room. And there they were. Austin, standing close to a woman Naomi had never seen before. The woman was younger, stylish, confident in a way that came from not having to earn her place. Austin's hand rested casually on her lower back, as if it belonged there. Time didn't slow. It stopped. Austin turned first. His face shifted, not into guilt, not into shame, but into irritation. "You're home early," he said flatly. Naomi didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the woman. The woman looked surprised for half a second, then composed herself. "Oh," she said softly. "You didn't tell me your wife would be home." Wife. The word echoed. Naomi finally spoke, her voice barely steady. "Who is this?" Austin exhaled sharply, like someone interrupted during an inconvenience. "This is Claire," he said. "We're in the middle of something." Naomi laughed, once. Short. Broken. "In the middle of what, Austin?" Claire shifted awkwardly. "Maybe I should." "No," Austin cut in quickly. "Stay." That word landed harder than any confession. Naomi felt her legs weaken, but she stayed standing. "How long?" she asked. Austin crossed his arms. Defensive. Detached. "Does it matter?" Her breath caught. "Does it, Austin? I am your wife." He looked at her then. Really looked. And for the first time, Naomi realized something terrifying. He felt nothing. "This hasn't been working for a long time," he said calmly. "You know that." Naomi shook her head in disbelief. "So your solution was this? Bringing her into our home?" "Our home?" he repeated, almost amused. "It's my house." The room tilted. "What did you say?" Naomi whispered. "The deed is in my name," Austin replied. "You know that." She did know. She had trusted him. "So, what?" Her voice cracked. "You cheat, and I'm supposed to just disappear?" Austin stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I think it's best if you take Lily and go." The words didn't sound real. "You're asking us to leave," Naomi said slowly. "Tonight." Austin didn't hesitate. "Yes." Claire looked uncomfortable now. "Austin, maybe this isn't." "I said stay," he snapped. Naomi stared at him, the man she had defended, supported, sacrificed for. "You promised me a life," she said quietly. "I gave you everything I had." Austin scoffed. "And I gave you a lifestyle." That was the moment something inside Naomi shattered completely. A lifestyle, she repeated. I worked nights. I raised our child. I held you up when you had nothing. And now I have something, he replied. And I don't want to keep pretending. Silence swallowed the room. Naomi turned away before he could see her cry. She walked down the hallway to Lily's room, her hands shaking as she packed a backpack. Clothes, shoes, a stuffed toy Lily couldn't sleep without. Lily stirred. Mommy. Naomi forced a smile. We're going on a little adventure, okay? Where's Daddy? Naomi swallowed. He's busy. She carried Lily past the living room. Austin didn't look at them. Claire stared at the floor. At the door, Naomi paused. She turned back one last time. You'll regret this, she said, not as a threat, but as a truth. Austin shrugged. People always say that. Outside, the night air was cold. Naomi buckled Lily into the back seat with trembling hands. When she closed the car door, the sound felt final, like a coffin sealing shut. She sat behind the wheel, staring at the house. 10 years. A marriage. A family. Gone in minutes. Her phone buzzed. A message from Austin. You can't stay here anymore. What Austin did wasn't legal, but in moments of shock, fear, and betrayal, people don't fight for their rights. They fight to survive. Naomi at that point was more emotional than logical. The shock of the betrayal was simply too much for her. Naomi dropped the phone onto the passenger seat. Her body shook, not from anger, but from the realization that the man she loved had already left long before that night. As she drove away, the porch light stayed on. But nothing inside that house belonged to her anymore. And Naomi didn't yet know it. But that night marked the end of her devotion, and the beginning of her reckoning. The collapse. The first night was the hardest, because Naomi still believed it was temporary. She parked the car beneath a dim streetlight at the far edge of a shopping plaza, somewhere quiet enough not to draw attention. The engine idled for a moment before she turned it off, and in that silence, reality pressed down on her chest like a weight she couldn't push away. Lily slept in the back seat, curled around her stuffed toy, unaware that the world she knew had disappeared in a single evening. Naomi adjusted the seat slightly so Lily would be more comfortable, then sat still, afraid that if she moved too much, everything would finally break. She stared at the dashboard clock. 2:17 a.m. Her phone buzzed again. Naomi didn't pick it up. She already knew who it was from, and she couldn't bear to read another word that reminded her she no longer belonged anywhere. The night air grew colder. Naomi wrapped her arms around herself, fighting tears, telling herself this was just one night. One setback. She would figure it out in the morning. But morning didn't bring relief. It brought hunger. It brought Lily asking, "Mommy, when are we going home?" Naomi forced a smile so convincing it hurt. "Soon, baby." She took Lily to a public restroom to freshen up, brushing her hair with shaking hands, washing her own face until the mirror blurred with tears she refused to let fall. She bought a cheap breakfast with the little cash she had left and drove aimlessly, pretending motion meant progress. By the third night, the truth had settled in. Friends had excuses. Shelters were full. Motels required money she didn't have. Naomi began choosing parking spots based on lighting and safety, learning the unspoken rules of invisibility. She learned how to sleep sitting upright, learned how to ration food, learned how quickly dignity dissolves when survival becomes the priority. And through it all, she felt ashamed. Not because she had failed, At the hospital, Naomi tried to keep going. She showed up exhausted, her body aching, her mind fogged with fear. She smiled at patients' families, did her job with steady hands, and collapsed silently inside every time she heard the word home. One afternoon, her supervisor pulled her aside. "Naomi, are you okay?" Naomi hesitated. She considered lying. She had become very good at that. "I'm just tired," she said. But exhaustion has a way of revealing truth. Her performance slipped. She missed a detail she would never normally overlook. Another nurse caught it in time, but the damage was done. The next day, Naomi was placed on temporary leave. She sat in her car afterward, gripping the steering wheel so hard her fingers hurt. The job had been the last thing anchoring her to normalcy. Now it was gone too. That night, Naomi cried for the first time without restraint. Not quietly, not politely. She cried until her chest ached, until her body shook, until the silence inside her felt louder than any scream. "I did everything right," she whispered to no one. "I did everything right." The law would have protected her, but fear, exhaustion, and disbelief silenced that knowledge. Days blurred together. Each morning brought the same routine. Wake Lily gently, pretend everything was fine, search for solutions that didn't exist. Naomi stopped checking her phone because hope had become too painful. She stopped imagining a future. She began questioning her worth. Was I too patient? Too loyal? Too easy to discard? How did loving someone turn into losing everything? One evening, while Lily slept, Naomi opened her banking app. The balance stared back at her like a verdict. Insufficient. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and closed her eyes. "I don't know how to do this anymore," she whispered, the same words she had spoken on the night Austin cast them out. And for the first time, she meant it. She wasn't just tired. She was empty. Naomi had always believed that strength meant endurance. That as long as she kept going, things would eventually work out. But now, endurance felt like punishment. She felt invisible. People passed her every day without seeing her. Without knowing she was a mother trying to protect her child from the truth. Without knowing she was a nurse who had once saved lives and now couldn't save her own stability. She watched families laugh together in restaurants she couldn't afford. She listened to co-workers' voices in her head while sitting alone in the dark. She felt the crushing weight of being needed by a child while feeling completely unsupported herself. The collapse wasn't loud. It was quiet. It was slow. It was the moment Naomi stopped believing anyone would come. And yet, somewhere beneath the despair, something stubborn remained. Not hope. Not yet. But instinct. The instinct to keep Lily safe. The instinct to show up, even when broken. The instinct that had carried her through countless night shifts and impossible days. Naomi didn't know it then, but this collapse, this moment where everything stripped away, was clearing space for something new. Something she never asked for. Something she never expected. But before life could change her story, it had to break her completely. The turning point. The day Naomi's life began to change didn't look like a miracle. It looked like another ordinary struggle, another day of pretending she was okay. The morning started with Lily's small voice from the back seat. "Mommy, can we have real food today?" Naomi's throat tightened. She turned around and brushed Lily's hair with her fingers, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, baby," she said. "We'll find something warm." She drove toward a bus terminal on the edge of downtown Phoenix, one of the few places where people came and went too quickly to ask questions. Naomi had learned to blend into crowds, to look like she belonged even when she didn't. She parked, helped Lily out of the car, and walked inside with the kind of calm that comes from running out of choices. Inside the terminal, the air smelled like cheap coffee, exhaust fumes, and exhaustion. People hurried past with suitcases. Others sat slumped on benches with empty eyes. Naomi bought a bowl of soup from a small vendor. Hot, plain, and barely affordable. She held it carefully, as if warmth alone could fix what life had frozen in her. They sat on a bench near a window. Naomi broke a piece of bread, dipped it into the soup, and lifted it toward Lily's mouth. Slowly, she whispered gently, "It's hot." Lily ate quietly. Naomi watched her like she was watching the last piece of her heart still beating. And then, across the street, something happened. A man stumbled on the sidewalk. At first, Naomi assumed he was drunk. People around him did too, because they kept walking. One person glanced over and turned away. Another stepped around him as if he were trash in the way. But Naomi saw the way his knees buckled. The way his hand clawed at his chest. The way his mouth opened like he was trying to breathe through a wall. Her nursing instincts snapped awake. Sharp, automatic, undeniable. Naomi stood so fast the soup almost spilled. "Stay here, Lily," she said. Lily's eyes widened. "Mommy." "I'll be right back," Naomi promised, already moving. She ran outside, crossing the street without thinking about traffic or danger or the fact that she didn't even have a home. All she saw was a human being collapsing, and the familiar urgency that had guided her for years. When she reached him, he was on the ground, his face pale, his breathing shallow. Naomi dropped to her knees. "Sir," she said firmly, tapping his cheek. "Can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered. His lips moved, but no sound came out. She checked his pulse, weak and irregular. "Someone call 911. Naomi shouted. People stared. One woman lifted her phone slowly, hesitant, as if she wasn't sure the man deserved the effort. Naomi didn't wait. She loosened his collar, tilted his head, listened for breath, watched the rise and fall of his chest. She spoke to him the way she spoke to frightened patients, steady, compassionate, commanding. "Stay with me," she said. "Don't you leave. Look at me." A man nearby muttered, "He's probably homeless." Naomi snapped her head up, eyes blazing. "So what?" she said coldly. "He's still someone's father." The words came out before she could stop them. And the moment she said it, something inside her cracked, because she thought of Lily, thought of herself, thought of how easily the world could decide you were invisible. The old man gasped suddenly, a shallow breath like a drowning person reaching air. Naomi's hands moved quickly, wiping sweat from his brow, keeping his airway open, stabilizing him as best as she could. Sirens wailed in the distance. She kept talking to him, even as her arms shook with fatigue. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. "Just hold on." The ambulance arrived minutes later. Paramedics rushed in, taking over, asking questions. Naomi answered automatically. Symptoms, time of collapse, pulse quality, breathing rate. One of the paramedics looked at her with surprise. "Are you medical?" Naomi hesitated. Her voice lowered. "I'm a nurse," she said. The paramedic nodded with respect. "You saved him." Naomi didn't respond. She just stepped back, watching as they loaded the man into the ambulance. As the doors closed, the old man's eyes found hers, barely open, but aware enough to lock onto her face. His lips trembled, and it looked like he tried to say thank you. Naomi stood there, breathless. Then she remembered Lily. She ran back into the terminal, heart racing, and found Lily exactly where she left her. Small, quiet, clutching the spoon. Lily looked up. "Is he okay?" Naomi swallowed hard. "He will be." They returned to the bench, but Naomi couldn't eat now. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing with a strange mix of emotion. Fear, adrenaline, and something else. Something she hadn't felt in days. Purpose. For a moment, she wasn't a discarded wife. She wasn't a homeless woman. She wasn't a broken heart in a parked car. She was who she had always been. A healer. That night, Naomi and Lily returned to the car again. Same cold darkness. Same uncertainty. But Naomi felt different. Not because her problems had disappeared, but because life had reminded her of something she almost lost. Her value wasn't tied to a house, or a man, or a marriage certificate. Her value lived in her character. She fell asleep that night not with hope. Hope still felt too risky, but with a quiet, unfamiliar feeling resting in her chest. Maybe I'm not done yet. And 3 days later, life would prove her right. Fate steps in. 3 days passed. 3 ordinary, exhausting days that felt no different from the ones before. Nights in the car, mornings of forced smiles, afternoons spent stretching what little remained. Naomi didn't expect anything to come from that moment at the terminal. She hadn't helped the old man for recognition or reward. She had helped him because that was who she was, because when someone is in need, you don't calculate the cost. Life, however, had been calculating quietly. On the 3rd morning, Naomi was wiping condensation from the inside of her windshield when her phone rang. An unfamiliar number lit up the screen. She almost ignored it. Unknown calls usually meant bills, reminders, or voices she wasn't ready to face. But something, instinct perhaps, made her answer. "Hello." There was a pause on the other end. A steady, controlled breath. "Is this Naomi Carter?" "Yes," she replied cautiously. "My name is Marcus Hale," the man said. "I hope I'm not calling at a bad time." Naomi glanced at Lily, who was coloring quietly in the back seat. "No," she said. "It's fine." Another pause. "My father was admitted to St. Vincent Medical Center 3 days ago," Marcus continued. "He suffered a cardiac episode near the downtown terminal. The paramedics said a nurse stabilized him before they arrived." Naomi's grip tightened around the phone. "That was you," he said. It wasn't a question. Naomi swallowed. "Yes. I just did what anyone should have done." Marcus exhaled slowly, like a man who had been carrying weight for days. "You didn't," he said. "You did what no one else did." For a moment, Naomi couldn't speak. "My father's recovering," Marcus continued. "He asked me to find you. He couldn't remember much, just that you knelt beside him and kept telling him not to give up." Naomi closed her eyes. "I owe you more than a thank you," Marcus said. "And I don't say that lightly." They met later that afternoon at a quiet cafe near the hospital. Naomi almost didn't go. She felt self-conscious, wearing the same clothes she had been rotating for days. But Lily squeezed her hand and said, "Mommy, you help people. That's good." Marcus Hale stood when Naomi approached the table. He was 48, composed, well-dressed, with tired eyes that suggested responsibility came easily to him. He extended his hand, not with superiority, but with respect. "You saved my father's life," he said simply. Naomi shook her head. I helped him hold on. They talked for nearly an hour. Marcus asked about her work, her background. Naomi answered carefully, leaving out the parts that hurt too much to explain. Still, something in her voice must have betrayed her circumstances, because Marcus listened closely, not just to her words, but to what she avoided saying. My father owns several hospitals across California, Marcus said eventually. I oversee operations. Naomi nodded politely. We've been looking for a senior pediatric nurse for our San Diego facility, he continued. Someone with experience, compassion, leadership. Naomi's heart began to race. I checked your credentials, Marcus said. Your record speaks for itself. She hesitated. I'm currently between situations. Marcus met her eyes. I know. There was no judgment in his voice, only understanding. We offer relocation assistance, he said. Temporary housing, competitive pay, flexible hours. Naomi's breath caught. This isn't charity, Marcus added quickly. It's opportunity. You earned it long before you met my father. Tears welled in Naomi's eyes before she could stop them. I don't even know what to say, she whispered. Marcus smiled softly. Say yes. Or say no. But know this, what you did reminded me that character still matters. And I want people like you in my hospitals. That night, Naomi sat in the car long after Lily fell asleep, staring at the city lights. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't calculating survival. She was imagining possibility. She whispered into the quiet, voice shaking, not from fear but from disbelief. Maybe this is how life answers when you refuse to become bitter. She didn't know what waited for her in San Diego. She didn't know how long the healing would take. But for the first time since the collapse, a door had opened. And Naomi was finally ready to walk through it. Rebuilding from the ashes. San Diego greeted Naomi with sunlight she wasn't used to trusting. The air felt lighter than Phoenix, salted by the ocean, warmed by possibility. As the moving truck pulled away from the modest apartment provided by the hospital, Naomi stood on the sidewalk with Lily's small hand wrapped around hers, unsure whether to smile or brace herself for disappointment. For weeks, survival had been her only goal. Now, survival wasn't enough. The apartment was simple, clean, furnished, temporary, but to Naomi, it felt like a miracle disguised as normalcy. A working refrigerator. A bed that didn't require a seatbelt. A door that locked from the inside. That first night, Naomi sat on the floor, back against the wall, listening to Lily sleep in the next room. For the first time in months, the sound didn't come from a car engine humming or passing headlights sweeping across their faces. It came from silence. And Naomi cried, not from pain this time, but from release. Her first day at the hospital was overwhelming in the best way. The building was larger, brighter, filled with movement and voices that sounded hopeful instead of hurried. Colleagues introduced themselves with genuine warmth. No one looked at her like she was fragile. No one asked questions she wasn't ready to answer. They simply trusted her. As Naomi slipped back into her scrubs, something inside her aligned again. The steady rhythm of patient care. The quiet authority of experience. The feeling of purpose she thought she had lost forever. She was no longer a woman trying to survive. She was a nurse again. Lily adjusted faster than Naomi expected. Her new school was 2 blocks away. She made friends within days, came home talking about art projects and playground games, her laughter filling the apartment like sunlight through open windows. One evening, Lily looked up from her homework and said, "Mommy, you smile more now." Naomi froze. She hadn't realized it. Healing doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly. Weeks turned into months. Naomi learned the city's rhythms, the early morning joggers along the beach, the way sunsets painted the sky in colors she had forgotten existed. She began walking with Lily after dinner, letting the ocean air carry away pieces of grief she no longer needed to hold. At work, Naomi stood out, not because she tried to, but because she couldn't help it. Her compassion wasn't performative. Her leadership wasn't loud. Her presence was steady. Supervisors noticed. Parents trusted her instinctively. Younger nurses gravitated toward her, drawn to the calm confidence of someone who had been broken and rebuilt herself quietly. One afternoon, Marcus Hale stopped her in the hallway. "I've been hearing your name a lot," he said. Naomi smiled nervously. "I hope that's a good thing." "It is," he replied. "We'd like you to consider a permanent leadership role." Naomi's breath caught. Leadership. For so long, she had only thought in terms of endurance, of getting through the day, of holding things together. The idea that she could lead, that she could shape outcomes instead of just surviving them, felt unfamiliar. But she said yes. Because this time, she wasn't afraid of stepping forward. At night, when the apartment grew quiet, memories still surfaced. Healing didn't erase the past, it softened its edges. Naomi no longer replayed Austin's words with the same sting. They sounded distant now, like echoes from a life she had outgrown. One evening, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She had learned something important in the ashes of her old life. Closure doesn't always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from growth. Naomi began volunteering on weekends, helping families navigate medical resources, especially single parents struggling the way she once had. She didn't tell her story unless asked. When she did, she spoke without bitterness, only clarity. Pain, she realized, doesn't have to harden you. It can refine you. The woman who arrived in San Diego was cautious, guarded, unsure if life could be trusted again. The woman who stood by the ocean months later, watching Lily chase waves and laugh freely, felt something new. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was honest. Naomi had rebuilt her life not by erasing the fire, but by learning how to rise from it. And somewhere far away, the man who once believed she would always wait, was about to learn what it feels like when life comes full circle. When life comes full circle. Austin's world began to collapse quietly, just as Naomi's once had. There was no dramatic headline, no sudden explosion, just a slow unraveling that started with a single missed call. One investor pulled out, then another. Emails that once arrived instantly were now answered days later, or not at all. Projects stalled. Deadlines slipped. Contractors stopped returning his messages. The confidence that had carried Austin for years began to feel hollow, like a suit that no longer fit. Claire noticed first. "You've been distracted lately," she said one evening, standing in the kitchen of the house that still looked impressive from the outside but felt strangely empty within. Austin brushed her off. "It's temporary." Legal letters arrived next, formal, cold, unforgiving. A zoning issue. A breached contract. Then a lawsuit that froze funding and exposed corners Austin had cut in his rush to grow bigger faster. Stress crept into his voice, into his posture, into the way he slept, or didn't. The same man who once told Naomi she worried too much now paced the floors at night, phone pressed to his ear, searching for reassurance that no one was offering anymore. Claire grew impatient. "This isn't what I signed up for," she said during one argument, her voice sharp with disappointment. Austin laughed bitterly. "You think I did?" A week later, she left, packing her things with efficiency, avoiding his eyes the way people do when they don't want to feel responsible. Austin stood alone in the house after she walked out, the silence pressing in on him. For the first time, it occurred to him. Naomi had never left him alone like this. Months passed. The house went on the market. The car was repossessed. The lifestyle he once flaunted began shrinking into something unrecognizable. And in the quiet that followed success's retreat, memory returned. Austin found an old photo one night while clearing out a drawer. Naomi and Lily at the park laughing, sunlight caught mid-motion. He stared at it longer than he meant to. He thought of Naomi's final words. "You'll regret this." At the time, he had dismissed them. Now, regret arrived uninvited. He searched her name online, hesitated, then typed it anyway. What he found unsettled him. A hospital feature article. A photo of Naomi in scrubs, standing confidently beside a team of nurses. A mention of leadership, of community outreach. She looked whole. Austin felt something twist in his chest. He found her number after days of debating whether he deserved to use it. When he finally called, it rang twice before going to voicemail. He left no message. He tried again days later. This time, she answered. "Naomi," he said, his voice unfamiliar even to himself. "It's me." There was a pause on the line, not shocked, not emotional. Calm. "Yes, Austin," she replied. I just wanted to check on you," he said. "I heard you moved." "I did." Another silence. "You sound, well," he said carefully. "I am," Naomi replied simply. Austin swallowed. "I made mistakes." Naomi didn't interrupt. "I thought success meant I could rewrite the rules," he continued. "I didn't realize what I was losing." She listened, not because she owed him anything, but because she had learned that peace doesn't require avoidance. "I forgive you," Naomi said quietly. Austin exhaled, relief flooding his voice. "Thank you." "But forgiveness doesn't mean return," she added. "Some doors close so we don't walk backward." Austin felt the truth of that sentence settle heavily. "I hope you find what you're looking for," Naomi said gently. The line went dead. Naomi set the phone down and stood by the window of her apartment. The ocean breeze slipped in through the open glass, carrying with it the sound of waves, steady, relentless, alive. She felt no anger, no triumph, no need to prove anything. Closure had come not through apology, but through growth. Miles away, Austin sat alone in a house that no longer felt like his. And for the first time, he understood. Some losses don't return. They teach. From loss to legacy. Naomi stood on the beach just before sunset, the kind of quiet moment she once believed she would never reach. The ocean stretched endlessly before her, vast, steady, unconcerned with the storms it had survived. Lily walked beside her, collecting shells and asking questions only children think to ask. "Mommy," Lily said softly, "do you think people can start over?" Naomi stopped walking. She looked at her daughter, the same child who had slept in the back seat of a car, who had eaten soup on a terminal bench, who had never once complained even when life had taken everything away. "Yes," Naomi said, kneeling to Lily's level. "I know they can." Because Naomi had. Loss had stripped her down to the barest version of herself. It had taken her marriage, her home, her sense of certainty. It had shaken her faith in fairness and forced her to confront a world that could discard people without explanation. But loss had also done something unexpected. It had revealed her. In the wreckage of betrayal and homelessness, Naomi discovered a truth she had never been taught to see clearly. Her value had never come from who chose her, or what she owned, or how much she endured in silence. Her value lived in her character, quiet, resilient, unbreakable. She had once believed love meant sacrificing herself until nothing remained. Now she knew better. Love, real love, does not require disappearance. It does not demand endurance at the cost of dignity. And it never asks you to beg for a place you already deserve. At the hospital, Naomi's influence reached far beyond her title. She mentored young nurses who reminded her of the woman she used to be, overworked, hopeful, afraid to take up space. She encouraged them to rest, to speak, to trust their instincts. She became the voice she once needed but never had. In her community work, Naomi met people living on the edge of survival. Single parents, forgotten seniors, families one paycheck away from collapse. She didn't offer pity. She offered understanding. Because she knew how quickly life could turn anyone invisible. And every time she extended kindness, she remembered the day she knelt on the pavement beside a stranger while the world walked past. That moment hadn't just saved a life. It had redirected her own. Naomi no longer measured success by comfort alone. She measured it by peace, by purpose, by the ability to lay her head down at night without regret. She had forgiven, not to free the past, but to free herself. She had let go, not because she was weak, but because she was finally strong enough to move forward without dragging old wounds behind her. Even when she remembered Austin had no rights to send her and her daughter out of her home, she smiled and told herself, if she wasn't homeless, she wouldn't be at the terminal to see Mr. Hale's father collapse on the street and be able to help him. A single action that had turned her world around. One evening, as Naomi tucked Lily into bed, her daughter asked, "Are we okay now?" Naomi smiled. "Yes," she said. "We are more than okay." Because legacy isn't built on what you lose. It's built on what you become after loss. Naomi's story didn't end with betrayal. It didn't end in a car, or a terminal, or a night without answers. It ended where all true transformations do, with self-respect, purpose, and a life rebuilt on truth. And for anyone listening who feels abandoned, broken, or forgotten, remember this. Sometimes life removes what you're holding on to because it's preventing you from becoming who you're meant to be. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself. And sometimes, the most painful chapter is the one that leads you home, to yourself. Naomi lost love, home, and hope. But she gained something far greater. A legacy. If this story touched your heart and gave you hope, don't let it end here. Share it, and please like this video. It tells YouTube to share this story with someone who needs it today. What part of this story spoke to you the most? Or have you ever lost everything and found yourself instead? Please comment below. Your words might be the encouragement someone else is praying for. Subscribe to Breakups and Breakthroughs for more real, emotional stories about heartbreak, healing, karma, and becoming stronger after loss. Because here, we don't just tell breakup stories. We tell stories of breakthroughs.